Welcome to Cravings Control for Fat Loss. I'm your host, Laura Cavallo, former sugar binger, overeater, and yo-yo dieter turned fat loss and cravings coach for hundreds of busy women. Here at Cravings Control for Fat Loss, I'll be sharing mindset, movement, and metabolism strategies for those who are ready to ditch the fat diet cycle and slim down without counting calories, tracking points, or giving up any of the foods they love. Get ready to embrace progress over perfection, grace over guilt, and bring curiosity and learning to the inevitable ups and downs of your life. Expect a decrease in your cravings while seeing and feeling an improvement in how you look, how you feel, and your overall quality of life. I am so excited you're here, boo. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cravings Control for Fat Loss. My name is Laura Cavallo, your cravings coach. And today I want to speak on a very important topic as we head into the month of February. I want to share the differences between those that are emotional eaters, what overeating is, what a binge eater and binge eating looks like and is, just to help you gain some clarity in terms of these different words that sometimes we use interchangeably. And there are quite some marked differences between emotional eaters, overeaters, and binge eaters. And you'll hear me share more about that as the episode goes along. I think it's really important to talk about eating disorders and disordered eating patterns, especially in a world of a lot of shame and guilt and stigma around some of these challenges when it comes to food and body image. Just know that today, a lot of what I'm going to be sharing, I pulled from the National Eating Disorder Association, which is NADA. And the week of Monday, February 27th to Sunday, March 5th is Eating Disorder Awareness Week. So I really wanted to provide a platform to allow people to understand that eating disorders are common and that there are resources out there for you. Don't want you to feel ashamed about what you're going through or any of the challenges that you're experiencing, but rather know that there is support for you out there and that there is a healthier and better way to live. And there are a lot of people that love you and a lot of people that want to see you succeed and have a healthier relationship with food. So obviously throughout the podcast, you've heard me use the words emotional eating, overeating, and binge eating pretty interchangeably, but I think it's important that we get clear on the differences and the different support systems that these need, as well as who we can help at Laura Cavallo Coaching and who we can't help and who might need some additional interventions and therapies and counseling. So let's start off by chatting about what is emotional eating. So emotional eating is what it sounds like. It happens as a result of feeling happy, feeling sad, feeling frustrated, feeling anxious. So it can be both positive and quote unquote negative. So for example, emotional eating can be like eating a special meal to celebrate a birthday, right? Or a holiday, or maybe you got a new job and you're excited, you're going to go out for drinks and something to eat. That is an episode of emotional eating. Emotional eating can also be negative. Maybe you're eating for relief or distraction or to numb out or to procrastinate. So emotional eating happens for many reasons, obviously, right? Positives and negatives, as you've heard me say. But unfortunately, emotional eating is often referred to in a negative way. When eating for emotional reasons, people tend to reach for foods that are more nutrient poor, right? They don't contain a lot of nutrients, and they can lead to more guilt after eating. Some signs and symptoms of emotional eating include, but are not limited to, eating without physical hunger, eating more than what's comfortably full, eating to feel better, eating as a reward, eating to feel safe, and feeling powerless and out of control around food. Now, you're going to see some of these symptoms and signs also for overeating and binge eating. So just pay close attention to when I go over binge eating and binge eating disorder at the end, just to make sure that, or just to see if maybe you are struggling with binge eating or binge eating disorder, or if you're more in the overeating, emotional eating category. So let's move on to what is overeating. So overeating is eating more than the body can utilize for energy. So this might feel like pushing past fullness, I always joke about having to unbutton my pants when I was a kid at the dinner table with my Italian family. It's something that, was really learned and something that I did consistently throughout most of my childhood and adulthood. A few examples of overeating could include maybe having a second helping at dinner, having dessert even when you're full, or eating when you're not hungry. Overeating tends to be normal and could be mindless, or it could even be mindful, right? Maybe you're sitting in front of the couch, you have a bag of chips or something, you're just kind of mindlessly snacking, and then you realize that you've overeaten. Or maybe you are full after dinner and you're like, oh, I'm so full, but like I have to have that dessert, right? And you eat to the point of being too full and stuffed, even though you were already full to begin with, but you just couldn't help yourself. So overeating can occur due to intense hunger from maybe undereating throughout the day, right? And then you tend to overeat in that 1 or 2 meals. It could also be a learned behavior. I gave you the example of growing up overeating, right? Something that was common for me. It was my default mechanism. It was my comfort zone. It could also be environmental, right? Maybe you're around friends who are drinking more and eating more, and you feel inclined or pressured or just by default consuming more. And to the point earlier, overeating can be mindless or mindful. Now, when we talk about binge eating, now I'm going to talk about binge eating as a disorder right now, and I'm going to share with you what qualifies it as a disorder. And then I'm going to share a little bit about my experience, because I do feel like I had binge eating, but not necessarily a disorder. And so I'm going to share with you what kind of makes it more of a disorder and kind of help break it down a little bit for you. Someone that has binge eating disorder binge eats at least once a week for a period of 3 months. It also can include signs and symptoms of loss of control over the amount you eat, oftentimes eating over 1,000 calories or more in a short period of time. Afterwards, there could be marked distress over the episode, so really big feelings of shame, guilt, judgment. And an important difference to just note is those that have binge eating disorder don't throw up their food afterwards. Okay. This would be more of someone that has bulimia nervosa, right? Also an eating disorder. But typically those that have BED, binge eating disorder, don't partake in throwing up their food afterwards. So some other signs and symptoms, and if you want to go to the National Eating Disorder Association website, it will actually take you through step by step so that you can see, do I have some of these signs and symptoms? But the one constant is that it is happening once a week for a constant of 3 months. And then it will say at the bottom, have you answered yes to 5 or more of these? Some other signs and symptoms include eating until uncomfortably full, eating more rapidly than usual, feeling depressed, guilty, disgusted with yourself, eating alone due to embarrassment, and eating large amounts of food when not physically hungry. Binge eating disorder can also be eating in secret, right? And planning your binges, knowing when other people aren't going to be around. So binge eating disorder requires additional interventions, support, therapy, and counseling. It's not something that we are able to specifically treat at Laura Cavallo Coaching. We are not professionals in eating disorders. And so we do, if we have clients come through, we take our clients through a full intake, and it actually has a screening for binge eating disorder within our intake. If we feel that clients do have a binge eating disorder, we will speak to them. We will see if they are in therapy or counseling for it. It's not within our scope of practice to be able to help clients that have binge eating disorder. So we definitely ask anyone that comes through that may have some patterns to seek additional support as well as opinions on what's going on. Personally, for me, I just want to share a little personal story in here. I definitely feel like I went through periods of, eating until I was uncomfortably full, eating more rapidly, feeling really depressed and guilty and disgusted afterwards, eating alone due to embarrassment, eating large amounts of food. I had a lot of these signs and symptoms, but it wasn't happening for me as consistently once a week for 3 months. So I do feel like I was definitely binge eating, but I wasn't having quote unquote binge eating disorder where it was happening consistently for a long period of time. from what I can recall. I do know that around my period, these binges got worse. I do know that consistently throughout the weeks, I was definitely overeating and emotional eating. And I know that those were really tied to undereating throughout the day, intense exercise, hormonal fluctuations from my birth control pill, as well as just a lot of sugar I was eating. So I know that there was more than just emotional stuff going on with my eating. It was definitely more physical as well. It is common for people to say I binged when they overate, but just know that even frequently engaging in this type of eating behavior, whether it's overeating or emotional eating, which are normal, right, and which are common, but frequently engaging in emotional eating and overeating may be a sign of disordered eating, right, and could potentially lead to binge eating or other eating disorders down the road. Even though today we're saying, okay, emotional eating and overeating are quote unquote normal. Yes, they're normal, they're common. It happens to a lot of us, right? We still want to be aware that they can progress into more unhealthy, splintered relationships with food. And so it's important to understand how frequently is this happening, really trying to get to the root cause of what's going on with these overeating patterns, and to keep track of, if you are having binge eating episodes, how often are they happening? Are they happening at least once a week? Have they been happening for 2 to 3 months, right? Are they going into that 2, 3, 4 month time period? Have they been going on for longer? I hope that what I shared today maybe brought some clarity to what you're going through and maybe some of your challenges. And again, I want this to be a supportive podcast episode. I want this to be a supportive environment for you. I will link the National Eating Disorder Association website at the bottom, linked to the binge eating disorder section. And I want you to just know that there is hope, there is support. I mean, I can't tell you how many clients I currently have who never got the support and treatment they needed when they were younger. And they finally took it upon themselves to changing some of their unhealthy patterns, as well as going to therapy and getting to the root cause of what's going on. It is very real that sometimes the people around us, like our parents or people at school or even our friends, don't fully understand what we're going through. And so we need to become informed and educated in some of these challenges and patterns and build that awareness and that mindfulness around what's going on. So I shared earlier some reasons why people might overeat or emotional eat or binge, and I just kind of want to go through those once again. So if you started listening to the podcast from the beginning, you heard me go through the 3 cravings archetypes: disconnected Donna, routine Roberta, hormonal Henrietta. So a lot of what I'm going to share, they're connected to these archetypes. So one reason people overeat, emotionally eat, or binge eat is because they're undereating throughout the day. So they're undereating too much throughout the day. So then by the time the nighttime comes around, they're overeating too much. Emotionally charged situations: happy, sad, anxious, bored, stressed, procrastinating. A third reason people may overeat, emotionally eat, or binge is to regain control, right? To feel control over their day, things they can't control, the stress going on in their life. This is connected to emotional eating, but it can also be connected to binge eating and overeating. I talked about boredom, prolonging feelings, stress, and then the 5th reason could be any hormonal factors like disrupted by sleep, stress, and anxiety. So as a final wrap up, I want to just share that at Laura Cavallo Coaching, while we're not qualified to help anyone with an eating disorder, we do screen all of our clients to make sure those that are coming in do receive the support that they may need from an additional counselor or therapist before they do start working with us, and to make sure that they are cleared for nutrition coaching and exercise coaching before they start any sort of program with us. If you suspect that you might be struggling with an eating disorder, whether it's binge eating disorder or bulimia or anorexia, please go ahead and check out the resources linked below, the National Eating Disorder Association. And if you have any questions, go ahead and shoot me a DM at Laura Cavallo __cravings_coach on Instagram. Let me know if this episode was helpful and what you thought of it, and I will see you soon.